Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. Chairwoman Rosenworcel at the FCC is going to be pushing to get rid of bulk pricing arrangements for MDUs, apartment buildings for broadband services. Be right back with that. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Zquorum with Broadband Deployment News. So if you are a broadband service provider and you're providing broadband services to an apartment building, this would be of interest to you. And if you live in an apartment, it could be of interest to you as well. And what this is about is bulk pricing for broadband services at apartment buildings. And there are some incumbents, some service providers or operators that are providing broadband services to apartment buildings, and they have an arrangement where, with the building owner, where they are basically their services. If it's not the only service, they have kind of an advantage where their service is included with, let's say, the rent and an apartment. Somebody who rents the apartment, they get the broadband from that provider whether they want it or not, and they have to pay for it whether they want it or not. And the FCC, or certainly Jessica Rosenworcel, is trying to get rid of that. She's going to have to get that, see if the other commissioners want to do this, and they'll make a notice of proposed rulemaking. But that is what they're trying to address here. So what this is going to do is it's going to open up. It tends to be the larger MSOs, the bigger providers that will tend to have these deals. So it's going to open it up to other potential service providers in an area that may want to look at doing broadband to an MDU where maybe they haven't in the past because there was somebody already there. And there's also the challenge of existing wiring, where maybe the incumbent has that wiring and the other broadband providers want to come in and rewire the whole building. So this also may make it more of an open access kind of thing. And while I'm thinking of this, if you are an internet service provider and this is of interest to you, go to our website and you'll see that we have a solution that uses G.HN or GHN, which is something that allows you to provide gig broadband over existing wiring, whether that's telephone wires, if there's no coax in the building. Usually this is really for those kind of brownfield apartment buildings that are older, that only have twisted pair telephone wire or coax for cable TV, and they don't have fiber, for example. And in that case, you can actually use G.HN, and you can run fiber to the building, and then from there you can ride that existing wire, and then you can only turn up. You only have to turn up the apartment buildings that want your service. You basically install the kind of a multiplexer at the curb or in the building, wherever that happens to be, and then you can bring a little piece of CPE that plugs into the existing wire in the apartment, and then you can provide broadband to that customer or all the customers, however many in the building. You don't need to rewire the building, and you can provide the service to only those people who are going to purchase from you at that time. So if there's coax in the building, twisted pair, apartment buildings are not allowed to stop you from using existing wiring. Now that was a ruling back a while ago with the FCC. So you certainly don't want to rewire a building, because that would allow other people to use your wiring if you're going to go with that expense. But most of them have something in there. They all have something in there you can use. You can use twisted pair or coax if that's there. If there's no fiber or Ethernet, for example, in the building, you can use that. So check that out. Again, it's on our website. If you look under solutions, it's under, what do we have here? It's under additional services and gigabit broadband for MDUs. Or if you go into products, you'll see G.HN equipment. So that's at zquorum.com. Check that out. So again, back to what we're talking about here as to what they're doing here. And again, this is what's going to open up even more opportunities if you're an internet service provider and you want to serve these MDUs. I think it's 20% of the U.S. population lives in apartment buildings, maybe even higher, when you consider different kinds of detached buildings, those kinds of things. So it can be an untapped market, again, because of the existing wiring problem and the fact that there were some of these bulk pricing arrangements that were kind of cutting other people out. So that's what this will be impacting. So you see here, FCC Chairwoman announces push to lower broadband costs and increase choice for families living in apartment buildings. Proposal seeks to eliminate arrangements imposed on tenants that force them to stick to a specific service provider. Again, this was yesterday. FCC Chairwoman Jessica Rosenworcel announced yesterday plan to lower costs and address the lack of choice for broadband services available to households in apartments, condos, public housing, and other multi-tenant buildings. Too often, tenants living in these households are forced to pay high prices with limited choices for internet or other services. The chairwoman's proposal would seek to eliminate bulk billing arrangements imposed on tenants that impose a specific broadband service provider for their households. They're trying to open it up again so that other people can more easily come in, other service providers can come in. That will provide choice for the people living in these buildings as well as competition. So you don't have one single, let's call it monopoly provider that owns that wiring, and nobody else can come in unless they're going to rewire everything. Everyone deserves to have a choice of broadband provider, said Rosenworcel. That's why it's not right when your building or apartment complex chooses that service for you, saddling you with unwanted costs and preventing you from signing up for the plan and provider you really want. The proposal shuts down these practices. It boosts competition and consumer choice and builds on our ongoing efforts to improve broadband transparency. The chairwoman will share today with her FCC colleagues a proposal which, if adopted by a vote of the full commission, would seek comment on actions the agency can take to lower costs and encourage greater choice of communication services for the millions of Americans living and working in multi-tenant environments. So again, the FCC was going to be meeting on this, and as far as the party relationship there, it's the Democrats have a one-vote advantage, so it would most likely go through, and there certainly could be Republicans that might sign on this as well. Specifically, the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking would propose banning bulk billing arrangements by which tenants are required to pay for broadband, cable, and satellite service provided by a specific communications provider, even if they don't wish to take the service or would prefer to use another provider. It proposes allowing tenants to opt out of bulk billing arrangements. The proposal would also increase competition for communication services in these buildings by making it more profitable for competitive providers to deploy service in buildings where it's currently too expensive to serve consumers because tenants are required to take a certain provider's service. The Commission would also seek comment on other practices that may limit consumer choice in multi-unit buildings. And again, that's one reason the G.hn stuff is so interesting, because you can just, it doesn't matter if you've already got a take rate in that building. Let's say you've got the incumbent in there and you've got a lot of people signed up because it was forced that they would take it. So let's say they're already paying for it, might as well take it, right? Well, if that goes away, then you can come in and without having to rewire the building, you don't need to worry about what is my return on investment going to be for, rewiring the building with fiber, let's say, to be able to deliver service to everybody. You can just bring your fiber to the building, to the curb, and then again, you have a piece of equipment that goes outside. It can go outside in an enclosure or it can go inside in a closet. And then from there, you just market the service, and as each person signs up, you can get them signed up, and you can bring this little piece of CPE that goes in there and plugs into the existing wiring. So you have one that it would plug into coax, or you have one that would plug into the telephone jack there, and then that goes to a standard kind of router, and from there the customer is connected up. So it really is, it's a great solution, because you can just go in and pick off potential customers one at a time as they see the kind of quality of service that you get. And of course, you get word of mouth in a situation like that as well. So if somebody suddenly gets much better service, let's say a lot of these buildings, they have DSL, So let's say suddenly, and it's delivered over the phone line, but let's say you suddenly have somebody sign up with this service and they're getting something like a gig compared to what they're getting with DSL. That's going to spread pretty quickly, that word of mouth. So it's a really good opportunity there. Let's see, the proposal would also increase competition. I mentioned that. The Commission will also seek comment on other practices that may limit consumer choice in multi-unit buildings. So they'll, as usual with these notices of proposed rulemaking, they'll seek a lot of comment from the various stakeholders, and that would be the people that want to keep this in place. So you've got the folks that benefit from the bulk billing that would be, making points and trying to get the FCC not to do this, and then there will be the people, other maybe small service providers or apartment owners, or, well, the apartment owners might like it, or other stakeholders, communities that say, we really do need this. So there's be all kinds of comments on this, I think, that we will see. This new proposal, these new proposed rules continue a series of consumer-focused proposals to combat junk fees and support transparency for consumers. At its next open meeting, the Commission will vote on final rules to require cable and satellite TV providers to specify the all-in price clearly and prominently for video programming service in their promotional materials and on subscribers' bills. The Commission is preparing for the upcoming launch of the mandatory broadband consumer labels so that consumers can clearly see the price and quality of broadband when they sign up, and has proposed to eliminate early termination fees from cable and satellite TV providers. That would be nice for consumers. Because again, it's, if you want to be successful in business, you got to provide a good quality service. And that would be, if you're a broadband provider, a good connection, good technical support when somebody needs to call, good customer service about billing, those kinds of things. And people are happy. You don't need to tie them into, a 1 or 2 year commitment. I understand if you're a broadband provider and you're going to send out some like a cable modem or a ONT or something like that for the customer premises equipment, or maybe a router. A lot of times they're charging for that stuff anyway, but it takes time to make your money back on a customer, but you don't want to have to lock them into a term commitment to make your money back. You'd be able to get them signed up, and if you get them signed up, they'll stay with you as long as you provide good service, at least long enough to get your money back. So I think that's great. The consumer labels, they're really great as well. I mean, it can be very confusing for consumers. So to be able to look at something that looks like the label that you'd see on a can of corn or something, where you can compare the broadband service of various people in your area and see how much is this going to cost me? What are the speeds that I'm getting? I think it might have latency on there, other kinds of things that are listed on there that help you compare without, to look at one and the other and be able to quickly decide which one is the best one for you. That's great. Today's proposal builds on the Commission's 2020 rules, which sought to increase competition and transparency in multi-tenant environments. Those rules prohibit broadband providers from entering into certain revenue sharing agreements with a building owner, require providers to clearly and accessibly inform tenants about the existence of exclusive marketing arrangements, and clarified that FCC rules regarding cable inside wiring prohibit so-called sale and leaseback arrangements that block competitive access to alternative providers. Those rules went into effect later that year. So again, they've already made some strides in making the inside wiring more of just an infrastructure that anybody can come in and share. And that's again where something like G.HN that I was talking about can make a big difference if you are looking at that. So again, check out our website there, and if that's of interest, reach out to us. You see the website address there, but also our email address and our phone number. So this, I think, is good news among some other things that the FCC is doing for consumers to, again, in MDUs try to prevent kind of what tends to be a lot of times a monopoly provider. And I understand, if the provider went in there and they wired the building, they're not happy about this because they went in and let's say they paid the cost to, provide coax cable to every apartment unit, and now somebody else is going to be able to use that. Well, that, I can understand they're not being happy about that. But again, for purposes of the consumer and keeping prices down, providing a little bit of competition for them, providing the best technology that's available, because again, in some cases, they're just getting DSL. This is a way to do that. So I think that works out pretty well. So you can let me know what you think in the comments if you're watching this. Just comment on the video after this is done. When the recording's there, you'll be able to do that. You can do it now, I think. Right now, I guess you can chat, but we're just about done. So certainly leave a comment if you've got any opinions on that. Thanks for joining me today. If you're not subscribed to our channel, click the subscribe button, and there's a bell that you can ring, and you'll be notified when I'm live. If you like this video, if it was interesting, if you give me a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. And I will see you next time for Broadband Deployment News. Take care.